Hello. Welcome to Module 5, Information has Value. Today, we will discuss Section 1, Using Information Ethically. In this video, which will be the first of two on this subject, we will discuss why you should consistently credit the work of others in your assignments. Why should researchers acknowledge others' work? Citations work to establish our authority, to show that we are taking part in a scholarly conversation, and to help our colleagues and readers. Additionally, citation acknowledges one's debt to previous writers who made possible any future contributions. Citing sources that support your ideas gives the paper authority and credibility. If readers cannot find your sources, they probably will not find your paper trustworthy or persuasive. If you are interested in building a professional reputation of integrity, you need to present credible work on a consistent basis. There is an understandable conventional wisdom that if a researcher cannot get small details correct, then he or she is likely not dependable in regard to the large details. This is the kind of attribute that separates the experienced researcher from the careless novice. Citations serve as proof that the topic has been researched thoroughly. A strong bibliography can be a valuable springboard for further research by your readers. Acting with academic integrity and ethical behavior will pay dividends in your academic and professional life. The college emphasizes integrity, both in academics and in personal behavior. So, what is integrity? The Greek philosopher Aristotle distinguished between two different forms of virtue. To him, virtue, which can be understood as excellence, or the word arete, equaled quality of the mind or intellect and quality of character. He further defined intellectual virtues as wisdom, comprehension, and prudence. Virtues of character are courage, temperance, open-mindedness, and moderation, all of which are developed through habit. In the Nicomachean Ethics, he noted, virtue is a characteristic marked by choice. When used in the context of virtue, integrity refers to the excellence of a person's character and the choices that individual makes in accordance with applicable moral principles, standards, and tenets. Integrity is an important issue to cultures other than those of the West. Halfway around the world from ancient Greece, the Chinese philosopher Confucius wrote his 20-chapter book Analects, 16 of which are devoted to integrity issues. Ghanaian philosopher Kwame Gyeki observed that a great deal of African ethics emphasize character that is developed through moral action. Echoing Aristotle, Killinger defines integrity as a personal choice, an uncompromising and predictably consistent commitment to honor moral, ethical, spiritual and artistic values and principles. In your everyday life, this means possessing a code of behavior from which you will not deviate, even when no one is looking. For more on academic integrity, refer to Module 4 of the Ethical Literacy series. Ethics is a philosophical field too broad for this module, but you should know the college seeks to promote the core values of responsibility, fairness, courage, honesty, trust, and respect among its students and employees in their academic and professional work. Naturally, this includes research. The White House Office of Science and Technology Policy and the Department of Energy have each established a number of policies for federal agencies on the subject of research misconduct. The Office of Science and Technology Policy defines research misconduct as fabrication, falsification, or plagiarism in proposing, performing, or reviewing research, or in reporting research results. The Department of Energy describes fabrication as making up data or results and recording or reporting them. The same agency identifies falsification as manipulating research materials, equipment, or processes, or changing or omitting data or results such that the research is not accurately represented in the research record. The American Association of University Professors defines plagiarism as taking over the ideas, methods, or written words of another, without acknowledgement and with the intention that they be taken as the work of the deceiver. These all are generally recognized as deliberate misconduct. Questionable research practices are characterized as actions that violate traditional values of the research enterprise and that may be detrimental to the research process. These are considered less serious than misconduct because they do not directly impair the research process's integrity. They include publishing the same data or results in 2 or more publications, inappropriately assigning authorship credit, inadequate record keeping, and inattention to citations and reference sections. Knowingly citing sources with demonstrable flaws in methodology or logic can be ethically problematic, especially if you do not disclose the issues to your reader. Only citing the sources that support your argument and ignoring those that challenge it is also academically dishonest, as is altering the evidence into a version that supports your position. This kind of behavior is not in keeping with a researcher's commitment to the truth. You know you would be acting deceitfully when you purchased a completed paper online or used generative artificial intelligence to write an entire assignment. You know plagiarism violates the college's academic standards. You know copying and pasting from a website without attribution is dishonest. But you and your peers may not be aware you can be guilty of integrity violations through simple carelessness or inexperience. Plagiarism is perhaps the most serious and the most commonly identified form of academic misconduct. Here are the common forms of plagiarism according to Turnitin.com that takes into consideration modern technology. Inadvertent plagiarism defines cases when students commit plagiarism due to forgetfulness or unintentional paraphrasing. Inadvertent plagiarism cases include instances in which writers have forgotten to cite or lack a firm understanding of citation, exacerbated by the concept of fair use, and its impact on academic integrity, as well as misunderstandings over new citation frontiers, such as whether or not tweets should be cited. Student collusion is the act of working within a group on an assignment meant for individual assessment. The ubiquitous nature of social media and other online communication platforms makes collusion ambiguous, as students may mistake this behavior for collaboration. Furthermore, students may view the web and thus, their network of people within its realm, as a resource, which also makes gray the line between collusion and collaboration. Paraphrase plagiarism happens when a writer rephrases a source's idea without attribution. Word-for-word plagiarism is copying and pasting other people's words without citation, which can now be enacted through a couple of keyboard strokes, a great deal less legwork than researching library stacks and hard copies of journals and other resources. Computer code plagiarism is when someone copies source code, adapts code, or includes portions of code without permission from and attribution of the original creator and represents it as their own original code. Resembling word-for-word plagiarism, but in the realm of software programming, this is a new and emerging trend of misconduct. Self-plagiarism happens when students use their own previous work for a different assignment and assessment without attribution. This is a shortcut solution exacerbated by easily accessible digital copies of prior coursework. Source-based plagiarism is when a writer provides inaccurate or incomplete information about sources, making them unable to find and verify. Manual text modification happens when someone manipulates text with the intention of misleading plagiarism detection software. This form of misconduct is a deliberate response to plagiarism checking. Mosaic plagiarism is enabled by increased digital access and the copy-paste function. Students may weave phrases and texts from another source or several different sources throughout their own work, adjusting sentences without quotation marks or attribution. Software-based text modification occurs when someone takes content written by another and runs it through a software tool, text spinners, translation engines, with the intention of evading detection. This form of misconduct uses technology to intentionally attempt to circumvent plagiarism detection software. Data plagiarism happens when someone falsifies or fabricates data or improperly appropriates someone else's work, putting a researcher, institution, or publisher's reputation in jeopardy. Contract cheating is the submission of work by students for academic credit which the students have paid contractors to write for them. Plagiarism can also occur when you rediscover an idea. An idea claimed to be original by one author is discovered to have been earlier expressed by another. While an objectionable research practice, it is a well-known occurrence in the sciences. Sometimes, the lapse is inadvertent due to the researcher being legitimately unaware of the original discovery. A thorough literature review, which will be covered in Module 6, is one way to avoid this awkward situation. Or, you might engage in unconscious plagiarism. Known as cryptomnesia, this takes place when an author fashions an idea that he or she legitimately believes to be original, but is in fact one that they encountered some time earlier. Once more, doing your due diligence can help to prevent this scenario. As the Turnitin in definition states, this refers to writers who seek to misrepresent work submitted in the past as new. Authors using earlier submitted work in a subsequent venue must acknowledge its previous appearance, such as a disclaimer that says this article previously appeared in. The main consideration is whether an author is deliberately misleading the reader as to the work's originality. The possible consequences of academic dishonesty include expulsions from schools, demotions or terminations, loss of grant opportunities, and, depending on the severity of the offense, degrees and honors being rescinded. Strategies to prevent plagiarism and other research misconduct, even inadvertent instances, will be presented in Section 2 of this module. Next time. In Part 2, we'll talk about various concepts involving intellectual property. Until then, thank you for your time. If you want to learn more about the subjects we have discussed, these are the sources used for Part 1.